Police left blinking. Thing zips across Knoxville area sky. From the Knoxville News Sentinel, January 27, 1968. At least 7 police officers and several other persons reported about 4:40 a.m. today that they saw something in the sky. Something that could only be described as an unidentified flying object. Detectives Carl Bunch and Todd Goodman told the News Sentinel they first spotted the UFO while driving on Jessamine Street near the KSC car barn. Mr. Goodman said he remarked to Mr. Bunch, "What are they shooting Roman candles off for at this hour of the morning?" He said they stopped and got out of the cruiser to see what it was. Both described it as flying about 1,000 miles per hour at about 1,500 feet and having a flame shooting out of the back. Mr. Bunch said that it did not seem to make any noise, although a report from Holiday Inn West security guard, L.L. Stewart, in Bearden said it made a low humming noise. Mr. Stewart said he had called Sergeant Bobby Steffens out to the motel on a complaint. He said he and Sergeant Steffens were talking outside the motel and saw the object. "When I first spotted it, I told Sergeant Steffens the Vietnamese are attacking." He said they took cover under a covered walkway and continued to watch the UFO. He said a kind of permanent smoke appeared from the rear of the craft, kind of like the exhaust from a car, only it stayed with the UFO and moved with it. The object moved from the northeast to the southwest. Officer William Irwin told the News Sentinel he and his partner, Officer Mickey Snyder, saw the thing flying near Kingston Pike. Officer Irwin described the craft as flying very low and said he had never seen anything like it before. Shortly after Detectives Bunch and Goodman spotted it, Officer Jefferson Davis reported in. "They're not crazy because I see it too." In addition, Officer Tom Presley reported seeing the object. A woman at Sky Ranch, Alcoa Highway, called the police station shortly before 5 a.m. and told them anxiously, "Sputnik is headed for my place." An attendant at Direct Oil Company on North Broadway called the police station and reported the UFO. Detectives Bunch and Goodman said they were willing to be questioned by the Air Force on the matter of what they saw. "I never saw anything like it. I've seen jets and other planes, but this was completely different," Detective Bunch said. A motorist who is a part-time pilot said he saw a similar UFO in Virginia shortly before the Knoxville sightings. James Lovingood, with 100 flying hours to his credit, who lives on Sanders Road, was driving toward home from New York this morning when he spotted an object oblong with a tail of fire near the Wythsmith County line in Virginia, about 160 miles from Knoxville. He told the News Sentinel he spotted the object about 4:15 or 4:30 a.m. and pulled to the shoulder of Interstate 81 to watch it more closely. He said the object was flying about 3,000 to 5,000 feet up, with a speed in excess of 1,000 miles per hour. It was moving southwest. He said he did not hear any sound or hum from the object. Personnel at the control tower at Municipal Airport said no aircraft was in the area at the time the objects were reported to have been seen. There were no planes in the air near Mogi Tyson Air Base or the airport, they said. The FAA said that an object, going at the speed and height estimated by eyewitness reports, could not possibly be tracked on radar equipment. They said that radar works on the principle of line of sight, and the terrain or the low altitude could prevent the object from showing up on a radar screen. None of those who reported seeing the object had ever seen UFOs before. Some were familiar with airplanes, others were not, but all agreed they'd never seen an airplane shaped or lighted like this one. 2 years ago, when NS reporter Lois Reagan and her roommate reported seeing a UFO, Dr. Mac Braziel, physics professor at UT, solved the riddle. What they were seeing then, he said, was refracted light from laser beam experiments atop the physics building. When the News Sentinel checked with Dr. Braziel today on the UFO reports, He said the laser beams weren't the cause. The equipment was not used today or last night at any time, so I guess there must be another explanation, he said. Officer Irwin told the News Sentinel, "I know people are going to laugh at me, but it's the truth. I did see this thing, whatever it was." Space creature taps windshield, driver says. From the Tennessean, October 17th, 1973. UFOs swung like pendulums, flashed their lights, and chased a woman home, and a space creature clawed at a cab driver's windshield. If reports from a rash of new UFO sightings from Louisiana to Tennessee are to be believed. Numerous sightings of the objects were reported last night at Mount Juliet, Waterton, and Shop Springs in Wilson County, at Columbia, Tennessee, and at several locations south of that city and near Crossville, Tennessee. Frank Hobson, 31, of Fellowship Road, Mount Juliet, told Wilson County Sheriff's officers a circular object with flashing lights and a sound kind of like a vacuum cleaner passed over his house. He said his wife was talking on the telephone and she couldn't even hear because of the interference caused by the object. "They're driving me crazy calling about these things," John Spears, dispatcher for the Wilson County Sheriff's Office, said last night. One sighting reported by several persons at Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, was described as looking like a low-flying aircraft, but with light glowing all over it. And, not to let Americans have a monopoly on the craze, Soviet scientists in Moscow said they picked up unusual radio signals from space and did not rule out they came from another civilization. The TASS news agency said the signals, of a type never heard before, come in pulses after definite lapses of time, last for several minutes, and are repeated several times a day. TASS said scientists ruled out the possibility the signals are from Earth satellites. It is not precluded that they may be sent by a technically developed extraterrestrial civilization, the Russian report said. 2 Pascagoula, Mississippi shipyard workers claimed they were hustled aboard a blue, fish-shaped craft by 3 weird creatures that gave them the once-over with eye-like scanning devices, and a Northwestern University astronomer said flatly they were from another planet. Where they are coming from and why they are here is a matter of conjecture, but the fact that they were here on this planet is beyond a reasonable doubt, said Dr. J. Allen Hynek. Whether the objects are red, blue, sometimes green, make whirring noises or no noise at all, glow or don't glow, they are catching the attention of a growing number of skywatchers. New Orleans police said yesterday one man was struck by a police car as he walked along a busy highway, peering into the sky with binoculars Monday night. The man was hospitalized with head injuries. A Gulfport, Mississippi taxi driver said a blue-colored spacecraft stalled his cab and that a creature with a crab-like claw tapped on his windshield as he crouched on the seat early yesterday. Miss Davia Johnson, 19, of Lebanon, said a UFO followed her as she was driving home about 10 p.m. Monday. James Parks, the police chief at Estill Springs, Tennessee, in Franklin County, said he was patrolling about 9 p.m. Monday when an object he described as big as a trailer truck with flashing lights began hovering over his cruiser. A Washington Parish deputy sheriff in Louisiana said he and 2 other parish law enforcement officers spotted a pale orange UFO and watched it swing like a pendulum for about half an hour. This object appeared suddenly. We stopped the patrol car and got out. The object moved as a pendulum on a clock, then it would travel at a fast rate of speed in a northerly direction. Then back and forth, after each spurt of speed it would stop and move as a pendulum again, said Deputy Jerry Brumfield. Brumfield's sighting near Clifton, Louisiana, Monday night was about 35 miles south of Columbia, Mississippi, where a Marion County civil defense officer said his radar was jammed as he tracked a UFO Sunday night. John Lane of Gulfport, who said he had worked for Yellow Cab Company for a month, said he encountered a UFO after he took a passenger to Keesler AFB, Biloxi, Mississippi. Gulfport police said a cab company dispatcher called their office and gave the report, one of several received by the police Monday night. Lane said he saw a blue light heading inland from the Gulf of Mexico. He said his taxi stalled and his radio went dead. Later, the object returned, Lane said, and landed on US 90 in front of his taxi. Lane said he crouched on the seat of his taxi as the craft landed, and that he heard a tapping sound on his windshield. Looking up, he said, he saw a flesh-colored creature with bright eyes and a crab-like claw. He said he did not look up again until another cab driver stopped by his car. At Meridian, Mississippi, Charles Tinnen, a sports reporter for the Meridian Star, said he stopped his car when he noticed what resembled a red airplane warning light over my auto antenna. Tinnen said he got out of his car and observed the object, which he said grew larger and stopped about 600 feet away. It hovered there for a while, then reversed direction and disappeared rapidly due west. Sheriff Fred Diamond of Jackson County, Mississippi, said his staff and area residents are convinced something is really happening, but what is happening? He said he contacted the Air Force at Keesler. I asked for help and was told the Air Force usually refers things like this back to the local police and sheriff's departments, the sheriff said. I think the president or somebody should look at this thing. I haven't been to bed in 24 hours, and we are all about worn out. People are beginning to panic, he said. At Lebanon, Miss Johnson said she noticed there were two bright lights in the sky that appeared to be twinkling and moving together. I watched them for a short distance as I drove down the street, and then pulled into a market to report what I was seeing, she said. But the store was closed, and she said she drove home. I got out of the car, went to the house, and looked out the window, and saw it over a neighbor's house across the street, Miss Johnson said. She said the object was oval and made no noise. At Estill Springs, Newman Chitwood, superintendent of the Estill Springs Water Department, was riding with Chief Parks. It looked like a million neon signs, with some flashing, some not flashing. I guess it stayed in view for 2 or 3 minutes maybe. It seemed like 15 minutes though. It looked almost as big as a car. I hadn't really put much faith in reports of others saying they had seen a UFO. I don't hardly know what to say, Chitwood said. The Highway Patrol at Knoxville said it had 6 calls from persons in West Knoxville about UFOs Monday night. They all described it as a large, flashing white light, a patrol spokesman said. Charles H. Mize Jr., a Knoxville insurance executive, said he and his family watched a strange object in the sky for 4 or 5 minutes Sunday night. Mize said his 2 dogs suddenly went crazy, and he went outside to investigate. He said he saw a reddish-orange, circular object that he first thought was a large light on a nearby tower. But he said he ruled that out when it began traveling due north at a speed faster than I've ever seen any airplane fly. UFOs dot the sky in Kingsport area. From the Kingsport Times, October 18th, 1973. Wednesday night was UFO night around Kingsport. Police, who had less than the usual number of drunk drivers, break-ins, fights, and shootings to worry about, were kept busy with reports about flying objects, one of which was positively identified. It turned out to be a star. At 2 a.m., Jack Bond of 1652 Virginia Avenue called city police to report a UFO. Police hurried to the scene and saw a star in the sky, they said. At midnight, Mrs. Tony Mann of Island Road, Blountville, called the Sullivan County Sheriff's Department to complain about a UFO that ended up keeping her awake most of the night. The sheriff's deputies never arrived because, according to Mrs. Mann, she had given them incomplete directions. But when Tony Mann arrived home a little later, he got very excited about the UFO, which was real big and orange, according to Mrs. Mann. The Mann's dogs were also excited about it because they started barking as soon as it appeared and continued barking most of the night, Mrs. Mann said. She went outside and tried to get a better look at it with binoculars, but she was so cold, just wearing pajamas, and so scared that the binoculars kept shaking. I couldn't hold them still, she said. All she could tell was that the UFO looked long. After a while, Mr. and Mrs. Mann got tired of looking at the UFO, forgot about it, and went to bed. About 3 a.m., Mrs. Mann got up again to take another look at it. It had changed positions. Then, exhausted, she went to bed again. It wasn't there this morning, she said. At about 1 a.m., Jane Hall of Piney Flats called the sheriff's department and reported 2 more UFOs. Her husband, James Hall, who had been reading daily newspaper reports about UFOs, had decided he would stay up and try to spot one. He was in the bedroom, Mrs. Hall said, and all of a sudden he hollered, "Come here." And there they were, 2 bright UFOs, beautiful, a couple miles apart, high in the night sky in the direction of Elizabethton. Today, Chief Deputy Laddie Harwood said the lights were reflections from a dump fire in Carter County. Last night, sheriff's deputies told Mrs. Hall that the lights were probably warning lights on the top of 2 TV antennas. You could tell there wasn't any TV antennas there, Mrs. Hall said today. There wasn't anything there, just those lights, flashing on and off like the lights on top of a life-saving truck. The lights hung around for a couple of hours, then faded off in the direction of Elizabethton, she said. But there's nothing. There was also an unsubstantiated report, of course until a UFO introduces itself. Every UFO report is unsubstantiated, of a UFO hovering over Ketron High School for 10 minutes at about 7:35 this morning. And yesterday, a Mrs. Linda Green of Watauga told police that a man about 6 feet tall with 2 blinking eyes attempted to snatch her children. Dr. G.K. Jennings of East Tennessee State University, he is the Tennessee director of something called the Mutual UFO Network, thinks the UFO sightings are partly psychological, but not all. Psychologist Carl Jung considered UFOs completely psychic, not physical phenomenon. People who see UFOs are just seeing a little bit of the insides of their heads, which is definitely worth seeing, Jung said. And you can bet, once again tonight, people will take the trouble to see UFOs, whatever they are. Objects out again. Nightlife in Knox must be looking up. From the Knoxville News Sentinel, October 18, 1973. Knox County skies were again the scene of a series of UFO sightings last night. The Highway Patrol reported between 50 and 60 calls between 11 p.m. The News Sentinel switchboard received about 30, and the sheriff's office sent patrolmen to look into a few reports received by their dispatcher. The Highway Patrol spokesman said the calls were from all over the place: West Hills, Bearden, South Knoxville, everywhere. He said many of the reports described a glowing orange object with distinct red and green lights on each side. The sheriff's department received calls on a yellow object seen in Halls Crossroads, Kodak Road, and Strawberry Plains. Deputies were sent to all 3 scenes, but each time the reported object had disappeared. Mrs. J. Ward, Regency Road, Carnes, called the sheriff's department and talked to a News Sentinel reporter who was there. "I've never seen anything like it in all my life," Mrs. Ward said. "My 2 kids saw it, and one of them is in hysterics. My husband saw it, and the neighbors saw it too." She described it as a very large, bright cylindrical object. "It came right smack over our subdivision," she said, and swerved away, moving slowly and low. Then it went toward Middlebrook Pike, she said, spitting fire from its underside. 15-year-old Donna Stedman of Maple Avenue, Strawberry Plains, said she and her family watched an object that was red-orange with a little yellow blinking light for about 50 minutes. "It came over the trees behind our house around 8 p.m., she said, adding that it stayed high and was silent. Then it moved over the trees towards Knoxville and disappeared, she said. Miss Stedman said her parents and sister and brother all watched the object. This next excerpt comes from the same newspaper just below the first reading. Chattanoogan's looking up too. An unidentified object floated across the Chattanooga sky last night with police cars in chase. Later in the night, the National Weather Service at Chattanooga said several weather balloons had been launched during the evening. He also suggested that the sudden clearing of the air had combined with the power of suggestion and the human eye's frailty to set off the spate of UFO reports. Later, police in North Georgia and Eastridge also reported receiving calls about the object. In Kentucky, policemen and broadcasters received a stream of reports of mysterious lights in the sky last night, and some said they saw the unidentified flying objects themselves. Lexington police said they received 25 to 30 calls about UFOs, and one officer said he saw 2 of them, one briefly and the other for about 2 minutes. He said the one he saw best was a half circle with white and red lights that appeared over the southeastern part of the city. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it. As always, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with everything I post. Don't forget to leave a comment, as I always love getting to talk to you all and like hearing your stories and feedback. If you have your own spooky story, UFO encounter, cryptid sighting, or any other kind of scary story, you can either share it in the comments, post on my subreddit, r/IHaveASpookyStory, or send it to my story submission email, PinkPossiblyStories@gmail.com. Maybe your story will be in a future video. Good night, sleep tight, and don't let the shadows bite.